You guys can see everything well, yes?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Go put that on. So, I mean, we've been over, what the A windows and T windows are, how they function, alerts and stuff like that. But then we have this one here, the single stock window that we haven't covered much yet. And it's more or less called a snapshot of what a stock is doing. So there's several different tabs up here. The one that I think most people pay attention to is this details tab. And essentially, it gives you the statistics more or less of a stock. Obviously everybody's hearing all this stuff about short float and all that whatnot with uh, GameStop and all that. So that's one of the many different things you can look at as far as data comes. And the data that you can look at is basically all the filters that we have that provide data. So if we were to, like anything else, right click and we go into configure, you can see all the different available filters and columns, and then same thing as everything else, remove or add by going left or right, and that'll add those items. So like for example here, probably not gonna have, let's see, position 20-day range is probably not on there already. So we click, I don't know how much I can add to this actually, because there is a limit on how much you can put in here. So let's see, let's get rid of market cap and let's add 20 day, 20 days on there, sorry. Let's put in gap percent. So we select that and we add it, and we can see when we press OK, we got rid of what the market cap was, and now we can see the change in 20 days. And this is telling us for KOSS that it's changed 361.7% up. So I mean, there's not a whole lot to dive into this specifically because I think it's pretty easy to navigate this one. Like I said, right click and configure, and you have, the master list is on the right. What you have here is on the left. So if you don't find it here, then it's a filter that doesn't display data that is viewable in the sense that we're looking at it like that. But a lot of the normal stuff that people want to look at if someone's interested in dividends, earnings per share, that's what EPS is. Our composite rating, that's a filter or a formula that Andy and Michael Noss came up with that kind of rates stocks. Mostly it's rated on technical analysis, but they put a few things in there like debt to earnings ratio and things like that that would be more considered fundamental analysis versus what we do with technical analysis mostly. So, like I said, just all different things that you can add in here. And it's essentially like if you ever collected any kind of baseball cards or anything like that, and you flipped over the back and you want the statistics, batting average or whatever. The same kind of idea as that. And you can add any one of these, and again, it just gives you a snapshot of what that is particularly doing. So again, position in 10-day range. It's up 0.5% over 10 days. So those are the ins and outs on the single stock window. The thing that a lot of traders like to look at with them is they'll be looking at what the volume is doing. So you got your relative volume here, volume up there, that's your shares traded. Let me bring up my sorry, I was reading what Marissa wrote there. Okay, yeah, definitely with that, putting those on social media, absolutely. We get a lot of questions about that coming into Scout. So as far as what the different features are, so putting them up on social media help take some of that out of the way too. So sorry, I wanted to bring up my drawing tool, and so like here, that's relative volume is displayed there. This is how many shares actually traded for the day. Your price. This is your change from yesterday's close. So those are like some of the big details that traders are looking at. When you have people that are like, "Oh, I'm a momentum trader or day trader. I'm looking for volume spikes," they might be looking for something like 1 minute volume, which is actually something we have to give them as a custom formula that I don't see in here for some reason for me. Another one would be 5 minute volume though. So if we were to type, we can search and we write five, and we see volume 5 minutes right there. So, just put that in, press OK, and there it is. And so you can see once again, it's like, so right now you can see that it's doing 93% of what it would normally be doing. 100 would be, what it normally does. So right now, the 5 minute volume of the stock would be underperforming what it normally does over a 5 minute period of time. And so that's how, someone that's like, I'm a momentum trader, I'm looking for a volume spike. That's how they would look at that for that kind of data. Is any of that clicking or making sense, or do you guys have questions?
No, that all makes sense.
And then I guess, like I said, the next thing I was going to do was I was actually going to bring up my layout that I use, after the market closes, how I scan for stocks. I'll start to go down that road a little bit. And then, I mean, if you guys have questions, like I said, you're like sitting there all day. I know not everybody has some period of downtime or anything like that. I mean, if there's a chart specifically you want to look at, or a question pertaining to a chart or a moving average or anything like that, start throwing them at me to basically shed some light on it. Take it out of the shades, take it out of the shadows. So go to load from cloud, and then I have, like I said, a layout that I use every night. It's going to be kind of cumbersome here, I have a feeling, since we're trapped in this container window and I spread it out. But so evening scan layout, and we'll load it. Get rid of the drawing for now. So, I mean, this will probably look a lot more complicated than it actually is. I'm going to get rid of that from Holly. That did not do at all what I wanted it to do. There we go. Get rid of that. So, more or less what I do when I scan at night is I look for stocks that are in a specific pattern. Like the last time we talked about, I kind of look for what's called cup and handle patterns. And then, I mark things up according to what looks interesting to me on charts. And then I'll set price alerts and things like that for the next day, and kind of base things on what I think. So I'm just trying to make some space for all this here. So, but one of the things that I really utilize is the my liked. And so if I like something, essentially it goes, if I like something, I like it. So for example, here I have, this is my evening scan list, and just I found a way to use our position and range filters to look for those types of setups that I like. So we're looking at two different charts here, weekly and daily, and those are the charts that I kind of use when I'm scanning through and trying to figure out, is this stock going to be something that I like or not. And what I do is, like I said, I look for, now on the weekly charts, not giving me a lot because this stock did what was called a reverse split a long time ago, which I won't go into it essentially. But what they did was, when the stock was priced at, let's say, $5, they decided to make the stock be $100 instead. So what they did is, if you had 1,000 shares of it, now you have 10 shares of it, is kind of what they did. Or sorry, if you had 10 shares of it, now you have 1,000 shares of it. So it kind of messes the charts up. But what I look for is, in these patterns here, is I've tried to find bases. So like, you look at this long base here, and then you look at something like this. So the idea would this be the cup that you're filling, and this is the handle that you're grabbing on to sip from that cup. This particular chart isn't the greatest for this example, but it kind of shows what I'm trying to do here. So once again, we can look at the scan. If we right click the scan and we go to configure, and we're going to go to summary. And essentially, this is all I'm looking for, is stocks between these prices here. I want the relative volume to have been at least one, so I know that people were interested in it today. As well, I want to see that it's been liquid as well. So just because something has a relative volume doesn't necessarily mean that it traded a lot of shares. It could be a stock that, let's for say example, it only trades 70,000 shares a day, but it had a relative volume of one. That isn't that interesting to me particularly. So that's why I want to make sure that that relative volume also includes it trading 350,000 shares for the day. Now, this is where the pattern kind of comes into play here. So I'm looking for stocks that, in its 20-day range, are in between 85% of the low of that range, but no higher than 110% of that range. So the idea is trying to find things that they're breaking out over 20 days, but they haven't broken out so far that it's now extended or I'm chasing it. These are all trader terms, if you will. So again, if I am using a trader term that doesn't make sense, please, interrupt me and stop me. And then here I also want to see that the stock also closed near the high of that day. So I don't want to see something that, it ran way up today and then it fell completely back down. That would indicate that, it might have gotten pumped and dumped on that one day. So, a group of traders may have been interested in it and they ran the price up for the day. And then, so while it might fall into that range of that 20 day, what it did today kind of takes it out of what I'm looking at overall. So there's nothing complicated about the scan, and it doesn't, it's not a magic scan or anything like that. But I find good winners particularly in it, and I share it with anybody that ever has an interest in it. So what I do is I go through each one of these charts and I decide, is it going to make the list? Particularly not interested in this, so it wouldn't get a heart. Just looking at what I look at, first off, this over here, I don't care for that. That had that reverse split. Number one. Number two, it's a medical device or medical holding, so that just tells me that they brought that price up because the stock was already failing and it was delisted from the Nasdaq. And then you have here, last month it had this big run up here. So just trader mentality is you probably have people that bought it up here and they're holding on, they're bag holding as people call it. So they're saying to themselves, oh, if the price ever gets here, I'm selling it. So as this price moves up, anybody that's holding that price there is going to be selling it to me as I move up, or as the price moves up, and as they sell it, they're going to be moving the price back down on me. So it's just, these are the kind of things that are the ins and outs of trying to, knowing charts, trader mentality. Stock charts, you're looking at people's feelings, essentially how they feel about a stock. So I wouldn't particularly like that stock there. We continue to roll on, and what I would do is I'd keep going through. I'll bring up the next chart. Super slow. Let me see if I can close something here that'll speed things up. Again, we got overextended here, so another chart not going to make the cut. Looking at it on a weekly, while it may still run, I'm not looking at that as something that's going to run anymore. Keep clicking down. Let's see here. This one, a little more interesting. So as I look at it here, I'm guessing that this doesn't go a whole. There we go. So zoom way out, and the next part of what I do is I start to draw lines. And I look back here, and the last time it was at this spot is May of 2018. So we're looking back almost 3 years. So a lot of people that are looking at support and resistance, they may or may not look at this, but I wouldn't consider it major resistance at this point because it's so long. So what I would do is I right click, and on the chart, like we were showing last week, we have not the line that I want. Let's see, clear drawings, if that does what I want. Okay, well, I guess we'll use a trend line. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to draw a line here. Sorry, once again, learning as we go together. I'm going to clear the drawings. Now I'm going to draw the trend line. Well, I want it to go straight across because I want it to be what's called like a support or a resistance line. So I'm going to have it go from one end to the other. And I don't know what I'm doing. Go ahead and laugh at me. Sorry, drawing on this chart's not quite the same, but if you can imagine a line that I can't for some reason draw that goes straight across basically here around that 750 level, that'd be a level of interest to traders if I were to use my tool. Let's do that instead. We look at that there. Might see some trouble there, but once we get past that, if we look at the chart, on the weekly, we can see that up here, is the next time we see any kind of resistance. So I would draw a line on that chart, and that more or less is what interests me. And then the next thing I do is I would click like up here in the heart, and then a way to track what I do aside from if I'm not simulating trading or anything like that, something that I like to do is I can look on the heart, and now it told me that I liked this chart on February 17th at 4:53 p.m. my local time. And so I can do that on any of these here. So this is a top list that I created that only looks at my liked symbols. So if we right click and we go to configure and we look at symbol lists, it says only the following lists and I have my like checked. So that is the only set of stocks that it will look at. So it's a way for kind of like you could paper trade this way in a sense without having to start up Amazon Workstation or anything like that for Brokerage Plus. You can click. I can click on any one of these and see when I like that symbol. So, for example, I just take UEPS. I clicked on that, and I can look that I like that symbol on New Year's Eve at 8:30 in the morning on New Year's Eve. So, and then I can go back and I can look on a daily chart here back to New Year's Eve, and let's see, that's the fourth. So there we go. Fast forward a few days with the mouse. Right there. So there's New Year's Eve, and that's what that stock was doing. And so we can see that if I had an interest or I took a position in it, depending on what my reasoning and stop and things like that would be, we could see that I would have been up from if I had bought it that day. Come down a little bit and come up. But it's a way maybe for just a cheat way for you to paper trade more or less. If there's some things that you're interested, you're playing around with the software at night, during the day, whatever your free time is. If you have interest, if you say, boy, I like these stocks, whatever they happen to be, you can use that my liked to timestamp when you actually liked it and how you would have done moving forward from that point of time. So if any of that's making sense or you have questions on the my liked or my actual evening scan or any of that stuff or the charts, moving averages, any of that. Okie dokie. Sorry, I'm still trying to play with this marked up because on the app version it has where I can just draw a straight line across versus what I'm trying to do here. That I have no idea what. There we go.
Did you say that's a difference with the web version?
Yeah, on the app, bring it up really fast here. So that's going to be the app. Hold on, let me just get myself a car here. So if I right click on the app, I can do
Yeah.
this. Right click, mark up, and it's a horizontal line, and there I have a horizontal line across the chart. But
Okay.
for some reason, we don't have that on the web version. Another friendly tip I just learned on the web version the other day is a max of 5 charts, no matter if you're premium or standard subscriber. Where with the app, with the premium, you have 20 charts. So unfortunate, but just I guess the way it goes for the poor web version people. So, but all right. So on the right click, let's try that again. Markup. You have clear drawings. You can write a text on there. Let's see if we can. There we go. So, all right, to draw that line, essentially it's the same function. Just click and hold and drag it across. So, but that's, look, a lot of people will tell you technical analysis is a bunch of mumbo jumbo nonsense, and I won't disagree with them, but it works at the same time. And it's not perfect, but it's a lot of if then scenarios that essentially, the reason why a casino is profitable is because they let their edge play out. Well, if you find an edge with drawing lines on a chart, does it really matter how the lines work? If you let your edge play out over 3 months, 6 months, if you're up, you're up. That's all that matters, whatever works for you. So, it goes back to where I was discussing for me, an 8 EMA is my bread and butter, more or less. Other people will tell you that it doesn't work for them. So be it. It's, what works for you. And so, these are things that I would suggest to you. Once again, if you're interested in trading, if you're interested in learning this stuff, play with these things. See, how it works for you. If we click through some of the charts here, Just see if I can find some examples here of, some cup and handle stuff that looks to work really well. Or here, even better. All right, this is a good one. And actually happens to be Steve's trade of the week. So now I had happened to look at this chart a few weeks ago myself, and the only reason that I didn't like it is because it's in the energy sector, and I kind of just have this thing about trading anything in energy. I just not my thing for whatever reason. But if we were to look at back here, look at that, and then look at this base, and when we held this base here and coming and moving up there, and then if you pay attention to what's going on in the world, put it with this technical analysis here, we know that A, it's winter, and then B, the entire center of the country has just gotten smashed with that polar vortex. This is a natural gas stock, actually. So it would stand to reason that once we broke away on this gap here, that we would see what's going on here. It's a gamble, but if you're, paying attention, you have a setup that works, like I do, you know, we're finding that this went pretty solid here actually. So, and if we don't even we exclude what happened here because this is the big market crash last year when the virus first came. If we even looked at it like this, we took a cup here, it couldn't break out. We took another one here and it didn't break out. We took another one here, and if we look, that is the lowest of the lows. We never broke that low there, and we didn't break it again here. And we can see that while it couldn't break out here, it couldn't break out here, we started to break out here, and now we have another cup and handle that's really right there. And this is just, what I happen to find that worked for me for trading. I tried to trade like Barry for a long time, how he day trades and stuff. I got my butt kicked. That's all there was to it. It was really simple. And not that I don't take a day trade here or there, but I learned that it just didn't work for me. As I discussed with looking at the charts last time we were together, not last week, that I found what works for me and my personality and how I can, what I can and I am willing to risk for the money that's in my account. So, like I said, is it mumbo jumbo? Sure, but it's mumbo jumbo that happens to work. If I could told you can go to Vegas and count the cards, and you knew how to count cards, you'd obviously do it. Well, this is my way more or less of counting cards. So I don't know if any of that makes sense, or if there's anything else you want me to touch on. I know it's at the top of the hour and everybody's looking to get to the rest of the day, so let me know if there's anything that doesn't make sense or a question on any of the charts or the moving averages or how to put them on or off the charts.
I think it all makes sense. I might go over this video again. I might have something for you next week, but right
All right.
now it's making sense.
And then, I don't want to. I don't want to torture you all with this either. Like I said, I know everybody's swamped between, you guys with the NYSE stuff and everything else. So it's like, you know, if we want to take a break from one week to another, or we want to do it every other week, maybe so we can come up with questions or anything like that. Um, I mean, the other thing I'll do too is we can go back to the beginning and start to go back through top lists together and whatever else. But again, I don't want to bore you guys and take up your time with things either that aren't interesting to you or you're not finding value in either. So when it comes to anything discussing trading wise, mostly what I'd be showing is things like this. I mean, I can go into stuff that's other technical analysis and patterns if you're interested, or if you've heard of a pattern, you want to look at it. We can do any of that stuff too. But like I said, I don't want to, I don't want to annoy or bother or waste your guys' time on any of this. That's all.
Oh, not at all. Very helpful. Thank you. But maybe doing every other week and then having more time to think about questions and review the videos and get a handle on what we've gotten over.
Yeah, whatever works for you guys. I'd let you all be more in the driver's seat of what the content is. Um, I mean, I know a review is always good because you're not always doing, you're not interacting with Holly every day if you want to go back over Holly, or, you're not building a top list every day or going through what the filters are every day. So, I mean, I'm happy to review stuff, but again, I don't want to,
Well, I meant just the videos you send so I can go over them
Yeah,
while I'm
I
playing.
will, and I'll definitely upload this in a little bit here to YouTube and then send it over. So, but just once again, like, quickly going through all these here,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest, I'm not seeing so far as I click through anything that's too interesting on the list. This is the first one that I find interesting. So just real quick again,
Yeah.
just to hammer this one home, and I try to kind of exclude some of what went on right here last year because it's like, pandemic. But if we were to look more on this daily chart here, you know, we could look and say that a base was established here, and we found a new base here that's breaking out. And we can look and see this and that coincide right there. And every other trader on the planet is going to be looking at that right now. So, we're not the only ones. And we can see that the next time we find some resistance is somewhere up in this area here. So one might say to themselves, looking at this, around $25 might be the next resistance area. That doesn't mean it's straight up to $25. It doesn't mean it's going to get there whatsoever, as a matter of fact. But that's where, some of these other factors come in, and I'm looking at multiple versions of the single stock window. So we could look at some details really fast before I let you go. We could say to ourselves, say it traded over 1 million shares, so people are very interested in it. It was up there on the relative volume right there. And any of these other things here, we can see the composite rating that Andy and Michael wrote, so it's somewhere kind of in the middle of all of it. And one other thing that we could always look at really fast is if it has an insiders. So we can see that, the insiders, the people that can buy the stock from the inside, they believe in the stock. So these are things that I look at, 109,000 shares bought by people that work for the company versus 21,000 sold by people that work for the company. And so I will, as a matter of fact, like it because it's going to get liked one way or the other tonight. And it goes on my list, and then I make a price alert. I don't know if we have a price alert, so I'll throw a price alert in there. Closed around 1834, so I'm going to make a price alert of 1840. And if anybody else happens to want to do that, by all means. And you could track it over the next whatever days, so we can see that we liked it at that time here today, and that's that. So, all right, I'll let you all go. I'll stop torturing you, and as per usual, if something catches your eye or whatever, hit me with a message, and I'll let. We could wait till next week on Wednesday to decide if we want to do it next week or if we want to go every other week, or if you want to just decide that now. I'll leave that entirely up to all you ladies.
Do you mind if we wait until next week? Let's see how next week's looking.
Absolutely, I'm good with anything.
And then the one, what Marissa was asking in Slack that we were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
is there anything about our software that is very different than our competitors that we could kind of mention on social media or during calls if people are asking, well, what makes you guys stand out?
What makes us stand out is the unique combination of alert events and filters that we have that nobody else has, essentially.
Okay.
Um, I mean, our one damper is our charts versus someone like TrendSpider. So TrendSpider is more of a charting platform, but they don't have the scanning capabilities that we have, and they don't have the customization abilities that we have. So that's, more or less where they get hampered is that we have data points, many more data points than they have that are already there, and we can even take and build some custom formulas with that. Not us particularly because there's some math that can get involved in that, but if someone is familiar, if you have someone that's like a stock trader, and they're really familiar with things like that, they could absolutely, we can pass them a video that shows them more or less customs. But I mean, customs can get extremely complicated. That's the only issue with them. So, like, for example, if I were to, well, I'm not going to pull it up now and bore you with it, but there are things that, custom formulas that can take up hours to try to write. But they have that ability with our software where they don't have that ability with other competitors' software. So those are the big highlights that I would point out is we just simply have more data than everybody else.
Perfect. That's great. Okay.
So Alrighty, I will let you all to it, and as per usual, I won't be far from my desk if there are any questions.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Alright, you too. Bye, everybody.
Yes, bye.